Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my first official YouTube video. Up to now, I've posted a few shorts and just some smaller videos, but this is my first proper researched video that I'm uploading to my channel. And it isn't an easy one to talk about. The circumstances around what we're going to discuss today are heartbreaking. They are going to be difficult for some people to hear. And I just wanted to make everybody aware of that before we start. This video has been a long time coming. I actually made the decision back in November of 24 that I would create this video. However, this is my third attempt at filming and I just wasn't happy with the quality of what I was putting out before this. So today we're going to just go at it and try and do her justice and hope that we get some awareness around what's happening to this young woman's family and what happened to her. And I would really appreciate it if everybody would watch and share. There will be a competition, so if you want to stay to the end to join that competition, I'll share the details at the end. And yeah, let's get into it. I just want to say before we do start that the information that I'm about to share is all public. It's all out there publicly. It is information that I have researched and found on my own. Up to now, these are my opinions, and nobody else has influenced any of the information that I'm about to share in this video. So today we are going to talk about the absolutely heartbreaking and suspicious death of 23-year-old Kelly Marie Lynch, who lost her life on the early hours of the 16th of March 2024 in extremely suspicious circumstances. I also just want to add that my dog is here with me, so if you hear any weird noises, that's her. Hopefully she will fall asleep soon. So Kelly Marie Lynch was born on the 16th of September of the year 2000 in Portsmouth in the United Kingdom. At a very young age, however, the family moved to Lisnaskea, which is in Northern Ireland. Then 4 years prior to Kelly's death, they moved to County Armagh, which is again still in the north of Ireland. Kelly's parents are Sean and Julianne Lynch, and Julianne I've spoken to quite a bit since November and now, and she's such an incredible woman. The advocating that she's doing for her daughter is just, it's admirable, completely admirable, and I thoroughly have enjoyed, talking to her, emailing back and forth. We've never actually spoken or met, but we've emailed, we've talked on TikTok, and she really is an incredible woman. So Kelly was a second born to 6 children. So she has 1 older brother, she has 3 younger brothers and 1 younger sister, so a nice big family. And like I say, they were living in County Armagh, which is in the north of Ireland, at the time of Kelly's death. Kelly had a very alternative style. She was stunningly beautiful. She loved Doc Martens, high tops. She had really dramatic makeup, very talented in the makeup department. I will post some pictures of her. She loved clothes and just the style, and was very, I suppose, very good at kind of representing the woman that she was, or that she wanted to be. And she looked incredible. Every photo that I've seen of Kelly, she looked incredible. And I wish I'd had the opportunity to meet her, because she truly seems like a fantastic young woman. So we're going to go through the timeline, which is a little bit confusing because information came out at different stages throughout the investigation. So I'm going to try and get it as clean as I can for you. There may be a little bit of back and forth, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments. But we're going to start with the day that Kelly left her home. So on the 13th of March of 2024, Kelly received a phone call from her boyfriend to advise her that his brother had passed away, which is extremely heartbreaking. Kelly, being the incredible person that she was, made the decision to visit her boyfriend immediately. I'm going to give a really quick geography lesson, and there is a reason I'm going to give this, and just explain to anyone that doesn't know the kind of logistics around this. So Kelly was in the north of Ireland, and her boyfriend was in the Republic of Ireland, the south of Ireland. Now, there is an invisible border that sits between the north and the south of Ireland. They are considered two separate countries. And the reason I specify that is because that means they have their own laws, they have their own police force, they have their own investigation styles. Everything is different, different medical system. And I'm explaining this now because this is going to come up later when we talk about jurisdiction. So just to be clear, Kelly was living in the north of Ireland and her boyfriend was living in County Monaghan, which is in the Republic of Ireland. Now, from what I can see, there's only about a 30-minute drive from the north to the south, or at least from her home to her boyfriend's home. And you just cross an invisible border. You wouldn't really know that you're driving into another country. So about 7:30 p.m. on the night of the 13th of March, Kelly gave her mum a kiss and gave her daddy a kiss and said that she would see her soon, and she made the journey down to County Monaghan to see her boyfriend and his family after the loss of his brother. Between the 13th of March and the 15th of March, there was constant communication between Kelly and Julianne. They would send memes, they would send voice notes, videos, they had phone call conversations just throughout the day, and everything seemed fine. On the morning of the 15th of March, early, about 6 a.m., Julianne received a call from Kelly, and Kelly seemed very overwhelmed and a little bit sad. And she explained to Julianne that she felt that there was just too much overwhelming sadness and a lot of drinking and stuff in the boyfriend's home, and she felt that she was ready to come back home. Now, in Irish culture, when somebody does lose their life or passes away, like his brother did, it becomes a celebration of life. So there is a lot of, going to the pub, having a few drinks. It's not, partying, but they celebrate the life of the lost one. So I can imagine that it was extremely overwhelming for Kelly. And for somebody of that age that maybe up to then hadn't experienced a lot of grief, it was difficult for her, and she justifiably wanted to just go back to her comfort zone, which was her home. And of course, Julianne said, absolutely, we just need to arrange to get your brother to work, and once that is done, we'll come and get you, or I'll come and get you. Around 8 a.m, Julianne called Kelly to confirm the logistics around it and that this would be happening. But however, on that call, Kelly advised that she felt a bit better and that she felt that she just needed to get some sleep. She'd been up all night with the family, having a few drinks and celebrating his life, and she felt sleep would make her feel better and that she was going to stay. Now, Julianne explains that she was hesitant, but Kelly was an adult, and she had to respect her wishes. So she said, look, if anything changes, of course, ring me and we'll get you home, but just try and get some sleep and see how you feel once you've had some sleep. There were a few text messages throughout the day between Kelly and her mum. This was on the 15th. And then at around 5:25 p.m, there were phone calls between Kelly and her mum. So they were sort of quick 10-minute phone calls, and then the call would drop for whatever reason. Maybe she was doing something and then she'd call back, and it lasted in total for about 30 minutes of phone call communication between Kelly and Julianne. On this call, it seemed that Kelly was in the bathroom of, I'm assuming, the boyfriend's home. And it was probably just quiet in there, so she went into the bathroom to have the phone call. And then at one point, her boyfriend came into the room, and she asked who she was talking to, and Kelly said that, I'm just talking to Mammy, and she referred to her as Mammy. It would be Mammy and Daddy. And Julianne was on loudspeaker at this time, and she did convey her condolences to Kelly's boyfriend. And she asked how the family were doing, and he said that he didn't want to talk about it, which Julianne respected. He wasn't ready to talk about it at that time, but she did say to him, please look after Kelly. Please make sure Kelly is safe. And he responded with, I promise, Julianne, I will make sure that Kelly is safe. This phone call was the last phone call that Julianne ever had with her daughter. A couple of hours later, there was a couple of photos exchanged between Kelly and Julianne. Kelly had paid for her younger sister to have her hair done for a school disco. So there were some photos sent back and forth of the hair. And the last photo was sent at 8 p.m. on the 15th of March. So this was the last official communication. So the last phone call communication stopped at around 6 p.m. and then the last text message was sent around 8 p.m. On the morning of the 16th of March, Julianne and Sean woke up to a number of missed calls from Kelly. Now, as Julianne and Sean had younger children, her phone was on silent at night time so that the younger children didn't wake up, and her Apple Watch had gone into sleep mode, so she didn't get the notifications when these calls were coming through, but she woke up to a lot of them, and they were early hours of the morning. So she made multiple attempts to call Kelly back with no success, and this continued throughout the morning. She made, well, throughout the day, made a number of attempts to get through to Kelly, and she was not able to do so. The calls were just either going to voicemail or going unanswered. Julianne explained that during this, she kind of had a feeling that something could be wrong. She even contacted her own mum, so Kelly's grandmother, and said, you know, something isn't right. And like any parent would, they look, she's probably just sleeping off the night before. Everything's going to be okay. Julianne knew quite, you know, I'm assuming it's mother's instinct. I don't have children of my own, but I assume mother's instinct would kick in, and you'd think something doesn't sit right with me here. But you have to give it that time to make sure, you know, that she isn't just sleeping, or she's left her phone somewhere, or her battery has died. So she carried on about her day on the 16th, and just waited for Kelly to come back to her. However, by 8 p.m. on the night of the 16th, she had still not heard from Kelly, and this was when she decided to send a Facebook message directly to Kelly's boyfriend. To this day, that message has still remained unopened and unanswered. Julianne woke up on the morning of the 17th of March, which is St. Patrick's Day here in Ireland. She didn't sleep, obviously, on the night prior, which is completely understandable. St. Patrick's Day is a pretty big celebration here, as it is in a lot of countries. So normally on St. Patrick's Day, we would, you know, go to maybe a parade, especially if you have younger children. Families would meet. You'd normally have a dinner, and there'd be a lot of, you know, drinking, etc. involved. So she tried to get the family ready for the day, just to go out maybe and see what was going on around where they live, and keep the children busy. But all in at this time was not hearing anything back from Kelly. At 12:25 p.m, so just before 12:30 in the afternoon, Julianne received a call from the PSNI, which is the Police Services of Northern Ireland. And they called to advise her that she needed to keep the telephone line open, so stay off the phone, because Monaghan Garda Station in the Republic of Ireland needed to try and reach her. At 13:08, so just before 1:10 in the afternoon of the same day, Julianne received a call from Monaghan Garda Station to advise her that her beautiful daughter, Kelly, had been found deceased. The phone call lasted about 10 minutes. And at the time of the call, Julianne was in the car, and she did have her children in the back of the car as well. There were 2 children in the car at the time this phone call came through that would have heard the conversation. I'm unsure of which 2 it was and the ages, as to whether or not they could understand. I know one of them is as young as 4, I believe, but I'm not sure which 2 children were in the car. But there were 2 children in the car when this 10-minute phone call happened, to advise them that Kelly had been found. I'm going to give my opinions to this at the end. I'm going to try and avoid giving an opinion up to now, but this call in particular is something that I will be very vocal about. Julianne described this time as feeling like she was in some sort of vortex. She was really focused on getting home as quickly as she could to ensure that she could tell the rest of the family what had happened before it got out anywhere else, because you'd expect something like this to be pretty common knowledge pretty quickly. So she did everything she could to get the kids home quickly, safely, so she could inform the rest of the family that Kelly had lost her life. At 14:08, so 2:10, same day, Julianne's sister made her way up to the Lynch family home once she'd received the phone call to say that Kelly had died. She decided to stop by the location where Kelly was found. So later on, we learned that Kelly was found around 8:30 that morning, and I'll explain that later on. So we're talking now 2:10, so let's just say 6 hours. When Kelly's auntie arrived at the scene, there were no police cordons, there was no Garda presence. The only guards that were actually on site or near the location were there to help usher traffic for the St. Patrick's Day parade. There was no evidence in any way that would indicate that a body had been found early that morning. And when her aunt approached a guard, so for anyone that doesn't know, a guard is a police officer in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. When she approached a guard, he advised that he was there to deal with traffic from the parade, and not there to deal with anything to do with the body that had been found earlier that morning. So the family were appointed a FLO, which is a family liaison officer. So in circumstances where somebody loses their life like suddenly or under any sort of tragic circumstances, you are appointed a liaison officer, and that liaison officer is there to help you deal with the legal stuff, legal jargon, you know, any sort of barriers you might come up to. That's the job of the liaison officer, and they're there to essentially communicate between the family and the police force, or the guard. Well, in this case it was the guards, but the police force that it is. So, you know, if it was the UK, it would be just the police. So their job is to try and alleviate as much stress as possible for the family by having those conversations with the law enforcement, so that the family don't have to have them, or at least to help them understand what is being said when they are having them. So the guards advised that Kelly was at Monaghan Hospital and that the parents were allowed to come down and see her. However, she was later moved, I say later, same day, moved to Navan Hospital for an autopsy. So this delayed Sean and Julianne being able to see Kelly, but they arranged to go to Navan Hospital once the autopsy had been completed, so that they could, you know, view Kelly and see her and, you know, identify the body and process her for her funeral. Monday the 18th of March at around 3 p.m, Julianne and Sean officially went to Navan Hospital to see Kelly. I'm going to read a direct quote that was given to me by Julianne. Behind the window, beneath a fluffy purple blanket, I could clearly see Kelly's head, but Kelly's entire body, right up to her nose, was covered with the blanket. We couldn't see her mouth. All we could see was the tip of her nose and up. I knew instantly it was Kelly because of her eyebrows. That beautiful little face. It was just so tiny and so fragile looking. Her hair was all matted, like so matted. And it was just one of the most heartbreaking things I ever had to do in my life. But we did identify her, and we asked when we could get her home, but we were told they still had to complete the autopsy and some more tests. On the way to viewing Kelly, they stopped and picked out her coffin. Her parents did. And then on the way home, they stopped to meet with the priest so they could arrange Kelly's funeral. And I have another quote here from Julianne, which I'm going to read. It became quite apparent to me very quickly that there was an assumption about Kelly's death and that she had taken her own life, because that seemed to be the general consensus with an awful lot of people. Suicide had been ruled out very quickly. So you do hear of this a lot. When a young person loses their life so suddenly, suicide is a lot of the time the initial thought process for people. And in this case, that's what they received. However, that was ruled out pretty quickly. And when we go into the injuries that were found on Kelly's body and etc. later on in the video, you'll understand why it was ruled out pretty quickly that it wasn't suicide. On Wednesday, the 20th of March, Kelly's body was brought home to County Armagh by the undertakers, and this was the last journey she would make to her home in County Armagh. Again, I have another quote from Julianne that I wish to read. I really was not prepared for what I was going to see. I had imagined all kinds of visions of Kelly, but she was just so incredibly perfect. But it was knowing she was never going to open her eyes again or laugh or reach out to me. At this point, however, that Julianne knew something wasn't right. And this is when she started documenting everything that she could about what she saw on Kelly's body. And again, I have another quote that I'm going to read. It's a very short one. So she noted that she had bare knuckle marks on her left ear, self-defense wounds on her left hand, and it was clear to see that her jaw had been broken. Now, Julianne confirmed that it was later confirmed that the jaw wasn't broken. However, it had sustained some quite serious injuries. When Kelly arrived home to County Armagh, she was there for 24 hours. This is what we refer to as the wake. and close friends and family will come to the home and they will see Kelly and they'll pay her respects. And Julianne actually mentioned during this time she was on autopilot, to which one point she actually went and cleaned her ensuite bathroom. And I think I resonate with that. I'm a rage cleaner. I clean when I am extremely stressed. Now, I cannot imagine this level of pain. I've never experienced something like this, but I do understand being in a mindset where you're numb and you don't know what else to do. So to keep yourself occupied rather than having to deal with people, because at that time you don't want to deal with people, you find something else to keep you busy. And in her case, that was cleaning her ensuite bathroom. On the 21st of March, Kelly made the final journey back to Lisnaskea, which is where she was raised. And Julianne advised that so many people came to pay their respects that she is to this day forever grateful to everybody that came to pay their respects to Kelly and to the family. Kelly was then finally laid to rest on the 22nd of March, which was 5 days after her body had been found. Funerals in Ireland happen a lot quicker. I was born and raised in the UK and it could take 2-3 weeks, but in Ireland they are very quick. And she was laid to rest 5 days after her body was found. Everybody that attended the funeral, there was a lot of support from everybody that attended the funeral. But her younger brother, who was 4 years old at the time, cried when Kelly was being lowered into the ground, and he actually said no, don't put her in there, bring her back out, while he was crying, which is just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. Julianne said that after the funeral they went home and the house just felt silent. They'd had a home previously filled with laughter, silly jokes and dirty jokes, and that wasn't there. The home was just completely silent and it just didn't feel the same, and it never will feel the same again for them. And I think for me personally, I'm not sure everyone else's opinion of this, the burial is the point where the closure hits, and that's when the reality of the grief sets in. And I think that's part of the reason why the Irish have their funerals so quickly, is because the grief doesn't start properly, or the stages of grief don't start until the funeral has taken place. And them returning home on that Friday after the funeral is when they have to look at what the rest of their life is going to be without her. About a week later, there was a pre-arranged meeting that was organised by the Flow with the inspector of Monaghan Garda Station as well as the investigating sergeant. So they headed down to Monaghan Garda Station to have this pre-arranged meeting. Julianne said that the condolences were obviously relayed to the family, but she did not feel that there was any sincerity behind them. Parents were informed at this time of Kelly's cause of death. Up to this point, everyone had believed that it had been due to a head trauma, so a head injury. However, they confirmed that the official cause of death was drowning. They were then taken to the scene where Kelly was found. So Kelly was found in the Ulster Canal, just by a bridge. So it wouldn't have been very visible to people. The bridge above would have been, however, where Kelly was located in the water, it wouldn't have been a very visible spot for people. So I'll insert some pictures of where Kelly was found, and the family went down and had a look. And this was when Julianne again also realised that things weren't adding up, things didn't seem right. And that based on how Kelly was found, positions, etc., she didn't feel that she fell from the top of the bridge. So at this moment in time, the opinion was that she fell from the bridge, hit the water, was still alive when she hit the water, and drowned from her face essentially being in the water and her not being conscious. However, Julianne is confident still to this day that it wasn't a fall, that she was pushed. And you can see a difference, I suppose, in how a body would land. And again, I'm trying to avoid giving my opinion until the end, but you can see a difference in how a body lands and the injuries sustained from a fall to a push. And the difference is that Julianne had noticed injuries on Kelly's body, knuckles, etc., on the side of her head, which would indicate that there had been some sort of altercation, whether it was at the top of the bridge or prior to the bridge. But something happened that resulted in Kelly being in that water, and they do not believe that it was a fall. So 8 days after this, Kelly's belongings were then handed back to the family. And again, I will insert some pictures, but the clothing that Kelly was wearing at the time when she was found the condition that it was in just doesn't make any sense. You can see in the pictures that Kelly's shoes are pretty pristine. They seem to have a small bit of blood on the shoes, but other than that, they're pretty clean. However, Kelly's socks are destroyed. Now, women, if they go out, will take their shoes off and walk barefoot, but that's when you're wearing heels. Kelly was wearing Converse, very comfortable shoes. There was no reason for her to be walking with just her socks on. So why were her feet so dirty? Why were her socks so dirty, yet her shoes were in pristine condition? Her jeans were very ripped and muddy, and her top was extremely stretched out. Could this have been because it got wet? Potentially, but I don't believe so, because as it dried, it would have, you know, shrunk back up into shape. Once the belongings had been handed back to the family, this is when the family decided that they were going to lodge a formal complaint with GSOC. So GSOC is the Garda Síochána Ombudsman Commissioner. So they're essentially the complaints department for Garda Síochána, which is the Irish police force. And they were putting a complaint in around how the case was handled and the way that they were notified of Kelly's death, etc. Just the general experience they had had up to now. So on the 15th of June, Kelly's mum posted another video to her TikTok, and I will link her TikTok in the description of this video because she goes through multiple video updates of the whole process up to now, pretty much. So I would recommend going and watching that and actually hearing it from her side. But she posted a video advising that she'd recently learned that it took 3 weeks for Kelly's boyfriend to make a statement. Now, we're going to go into a little bit more detail of him in a moment. I will not be naming him, but we will go into a little bit of detail more about the morning that Kelly was found and how he plays a part in that. But also, prior to her learning this, their family liaison officer, their Flo, had communicated with them via email to advise that they would have no more contact with the family via anything other than written communication, and that would just be email. So no text messages, no phone calls, just email. This goes against the guidelines of what a flow is actually supposed to do. This does go against what the role of a flow is, because at this point there is still an investigation being done into how this happened, and Kelly's family need the family liaison officer to be there to support them throughout this whole process. So for them to come back and say, well, we won't be communicating with you now by any means other than written isn't normal. On this video on the 15th of June, she also explains that they made a complaint to Pony, which is the ombudsman for Northern Ireland. So it is the Northern Irish version of GSOC. And this was again around how they were informed of Kelly's death, how it was handled, you know, just the general lack of support, I suppose, that they received. Julianne and Sean were informed by Monaghan Garda Station that the PSNIs, the Northern Irish Police Force, should have been the ones to actually tell Julianne that her daughter had passed away, and this would ordinarily be done in person. They would come to the home. However, this doesn't make sense, and the reason I don't think this makes sense is because on the phone call that Julianne received from the PSNI, they advised her that she needed to wait for the phone call from Monaghan Garda Station. So why would, if Monaghan Garda Station were waiting to get in touch with her, why would they assume that the Northern Irish Police would be going to the home to tell her in person? This doesn't add up for me. So during the 15th of June and August, various media outlets were posting stories or videos or you know, reports that the family were being notified frequently and updated. This was not the case. They were not being updated by Monaghan Garda Station at all. There was very little information coming out, and Julianne did not post then until August. So I'm going to go back to the morning that Kelly's body was located. So as we know, Kelly was last spoken to on the 15th of March. There was silence on the 16th, and then on the 17th, it's when that they were told that she had lost her life. Kelly's body was found at 8:30 a.m. on the morning of the 17th of March, on the morning of St. Patrick's Day. She was found by her boyfriend and her boyfriend's cousin. In a statement that he gave 3 weeks after this, he advised that he had noticed that Kelly's bag was still at his house. He had assumed she had gone back home the night of the 15th, But when he realised that her bag was still at his home on the 17th, him and his cousin went out looking for her, and they found her under this bridge. The mobile phone that Kelly had was found in her hand. However, the cousin removed it from her hand whilst checking for signs of life and handed it back to the guards the day that her body was found. Again, going to try and avoid giving my opinion till the end, but why would he not make an attempt to find out where Kelly was if she had left his home over 24 hours previous? Kelly's mum posted another update video on the 12th of August to advise that she'd recently had issues with her gallbladder. I cannot pronounce the name of the condition, so I'll put it on the screen. And even now in March of 25, she's still having issues with it. She was recently in hospital again. They did eventually receive the details of Kelly's autopsy, and we cannot actually legally discuss them at the moment, but all she will say, and she said, and I quote, blunt force trauma. So obviously whatever the autopsy shows, there was some serious injuries to Kelly's body. She also confirmed on this video that there was a voicemail left on her phone at 4:01 a.m. on the morning of the 16th, and she has never released the contents of this voicemail, but she says this will haunt her for the rest of her life. On the 22nd of October, Sean and Julianne met with the Commissioner, Drew Harris, and the Superintendent, Alan McGovern. So they had a meeting with them to discuss the whole case from the day that Kelly went missing all the way through to where they were at now with everything. They presented all the information they had. They presented everything from how they'd been treated by the guards, how they'd been treated by the PSNI, and wanted to show them that they felt that the issue just had not been handled correctly from day one. At this time, the Commissioner requested a peer review of the case. So a peer review is essentially when people that were not involved in the initial investigation will come together and investigate it again. So they have no involvement with what's gone on previously. They will review all documentation, all of that, and they will then investigate to see if things have been missed, if things were handled correctly, if the team handled things correctly. However, this is done outside of normal kind of police investigations. So this takes time because they have to slot it in to what they're already currently doing. Earlier on, I explained about the border between the North and the South. And the reason I did it is because where we're at now. So because Kelly's life was lost in the Republic of Ireland, her investigation will have been or is being managed by the Guards on Garda Síochána, which is the Irish police force for the Republic of Ireland. And the PSNI, which is the Northern Irish Police, had no jurisdiction or anything in the investigation. And this is where things got a little bit messy because nobody was taking real responsibility, mainly around how the family were informed of the death. And this is why I wanted to explain geographically how they sat, because a lot of the, in my opinion, a lot of the issues came to the fact that Kelly was from the North but lost her life in the South, and nobody would take responsibility or claim where the issue lied as to who needed to investigate it. In my opinion, the Guards should have taken responsibility. However, the jurisdiction issues were very much a thing, I believe, in this case. On the 26th of October, Julianne arranged a rally to take place in Monaghan, and there was a number of women in Monaghan that wanted her to come and do this rally so that they could raise awareness locally for Kelly's death, as there was just no one was talking about it. It wasn't anywhere. I learned about it from TikTok videos not long after it actually happened, but other than that, I didn't see it anywhere. If you Google Kelly's name, it comes up, but still the media presence around it was not big. So Julianne organised a rally, and she went down to Monaghan with her microphone, and she stood on the steps, and she was very vocal about what had happened, how Kelly had been found, and everybody, there were so many supporters that came. You can see clips of this on her TikTok. And she basically stood there and voiced all of the issues that she'd had, and it's just incredible to watch. It's moving to watch. I, as I said, don't have children, but I cannot imagine the pain that she is feeling, and yet to this day, she still fights like I have never seen someone fight before, and she's not letting up. She is an absolute force to be reckoned with, and I mean that as a compliment, and I imagine that Kelly was the exact same. But this rally was just, it was beautiful to watch. As much as heartbreaking it was beautiful to watch. And if you look at Julianne's TikTok, you can see the videos of her at this rally. On the 9th of December, the peer review team met Sean and Julianne. So this is the team that would be re-looking at the case from a completely fresh set of eyes, and they would have had nothing to do with the case previously. So they met with them and went through everything that they had. The bag of Kelly's belongings had already been handed back to them at this point. I think it was maybe 2 weeks prior to this meeting, and it was learned then that they should never have been returned to the family. There's evidence there. It should never have been returned. But they met the peer review team and they were happy with them. And they were happy at this point that the investigation would be taken a second look. So BBC Spotlight then did an episode on Kelly, and there were some interesting things that I learned from watching the episode. Now, it's only about 30-40 minutes long, but there were some things in there that I didn't know up to this point. There were some comments made between the guards and Julianne's husband, so Kelly's dad, that were just horrific, and I'm going to read them to you. So Julianne's husband, Sean, so Kelly's dad, asked about the blood that was on Kelly's shoes and why it had not been tested. The response he got was, if you think it's blood, go get it tested yourself. When the sergeant was asked this, he said, that's not what I said. I said that you were entitled to do it yourself. Either way, it's not his responsibility. You're the legal, you should be doing it. The guard should have tested that. Forensics should have retested that blood, potentially blood on the shoes. I believe that it is blood. Julianne and Sean also asked the guards, what does the boyfriend have to say about all of this? And the response there was, sure, why don't you go and ask him yourself? During the Spotlight video, we also heard from one of Kelly's friends, and they explained that the relationship that she had with her boyfriend was pretty toxic. It was on and off for about 15 months. There was a little bit of drug use. He was giving Kelly something called Lyrica. Julianne is now obviously aware of this. I'm unsure whoever she was at the time. And that, in general, he was just giving Kelly drugs, etc. Kelly is an adult. I'm not saying, that she could have said no, but from my experience being in a abusive or controlling relationship, which from what I can understand this probably was, you don't really have an opportunity to say no. And she should not be blamed for that. She took it because he was giving it to her. And from my experience with dealing with the relationships like that, it's not as easy as just saying no, because the backlash you can get when you do can sometimes just be worse. It was also confirmed in the BBC Spotlight episode that the last sighting of Kelly was at a primary school, which was close to where she had been found. Now, they later retracted this and said that it wasn't CCTV footage, it was actually eyewitnesses. However, initially they'd said that it was on CCTV. And there is, I suppose, statements out there to confirm that an altercation had taken place between Kelly and someone else that evening, prior to her body being found. Again, don't know the circumstances around this too much. There's a lot of things that we can't talk about for legal reasons, but Kelly had got into a disagreement with somebody a few hours prior. So again, in the interview, we learned that Kelly's boyfriend had found the bag in his home on the morning of St. Patrick's Day, and that's when he realised something was wrong, because up to this point he'd assumed that Kelly had gone home on the 9th or 15th. It doesn't add up, but that's when he then decided to go looking for her. Why they went to the bridge, I don't know. It appears that is the first place that they checked. Why they had it in their head that was the first place to go, I don't know. I want to avoid speculating on anyone's involvement until it's confirmed, so I'd be very careful what I say, but I just think that it's a little bit suspicious that they immediately knew that was where they needed to go. Initially, the boyfriend had agreed to talk to BBC for the BBC Spotlight episode, but then he withdrew that and agreed that he wouldn't be talking to them. He hasn't spoken publicly. Like I say, he was interviewed 3 weeks after Kelly was found and has not spoken about it since. So let's just do a quick breakdown of everything that we've talked about. So Kelly was in County Monaghan The night of the 15th of March, they'd been out, she'd had a couple of drinks. She was with a group of people. Early hours of the morning, around 4:15 a.m., Kelly lost her life, and she somehow ended up from the top of the bridge into the water. She was then found the following morning, so another 24 hours later, on the 17th of March. The condition of her body was very bad. There was a lot of dirt on her, bruising, etc. Nobody raised the alarm from the Monaghan side between the night of the 15th and the morning of the 17th to say that Kelly could not be found. Even the parents, you know, why weren't their parents, not her parents, why weren't his parents thinking, well, where's Kelly gone? Julianne did everything she could to reach out to Kelly during that time, but was unable to do so. But nobody on the Monaghan side raised the alarm. After that, once Kelly's body was retrieved and taken in for the autopsy, they deemed that her cause of death was drowning. However, there was bruising on her body. Could that bruising have been from her falling from the top of the bridge? Absolutely, but it doesn't make sense. The position she was found in doesn't make sense. The fact that she was still clutching her phone when she was found doesn't make sense. From there were complaints made, which there's no updates on yet, to the GSOC and PSNI. Any updates that come after this, I will continue to give you. There is a peer review taking place, and the family are now just trying to move on. I'm going to give my opinion now. My opinion is, I do not know, or maybe I do have an opinion, but I don't want to voice it yet. I do not know that this was an intentional thing, but I do believe that somebody was there and someone knows what happened. Whether it was an accidental shove over the bridge, whether it was loss of balance, whatever it was, I do not believe that Kelly was on top of that bridge by herself, and I do not feel that she jumped or fell of her own accord. I think there was something that put her in the position to go over the edge of the bridge. I think even if, let's just say, it was a complete accident, let's just say that it was, even with how the family were treated and the investigation that was done, it's not okay. The guards gave no thought to the family. They just went, yep, cut and dry, she fell off the bridge, this is how it happened, case closed. And I just don't believe that that's acceptable. Does it have anything to do with the fact that she was from the north and not from the south? Potentially, I do think so. And people are going to come for me for making that comment, but I don't think that that is just me that has that opinion. I think that it is very fair to say that for whatever reason this case was not handled correctly, and the only thing that can spring to mind was the fact that Kelly was not from the Republic of Ireland and the guards didn't want to deal with it. I think that the fact that she was found in the Ulster Canal and the boyfriend and cousin knew to check there is also suspicious. Why was there mud on her socks but her shoes were pristine? I believe maybe she was dragged down there. Did she even fall from the top of the bridge, or was she already at the bottom and she was dragged down there? What were the knuckle marks on the side of her head? There's so many questions that I just don't have the answers to, and I have an opinion to it, but I want to be very careful because I don't want to jeopardize anything for the family. But I feel that regardless, the guards handled this case appallingly. The reason I posted the video today is because today marks 1 year since Kelly lost her life. So it will be a year tomorrow that she was found, but it was the 16th of March of 2024 that Kelly lost her life officially. And I decided to wait till today to post this video in memory of Kelly. And as I said at the beginning, we would be doing a competition. On TikTok, there is a page called @dollshousetattoopiercing. I'll pop this in the description. And this is a tattoo artist based in Northern Ireland. And so she's doing a raffle for a €500 voucher for her tattoo parlour. So a €500 session with her in her tattoo parlour, which is pretty impressive. As a tattoo lover myself, I will 100% be buying a raffle ticket. So they're £10 each, or about €11.90 in euro, €11.90. And then you'll be put in to the raffle to win this voucher with her and go to the parlour and have your €500 tattoo done. So the competition is, if this video reaches 1,000 views, I will be entering 4 of you into the raffle. Now, to be eligible, obviously the video needs to reach 1,000 views, which I'm not concerned about doing that. You need to be following my YouTube and my TikTok. You also need to be following Julianne's and the tattoo artist's TikToks, and you need to leave a comment in the comment section of this video. You will then be picked at random. You do not need to be, you can be anywhere in the world, but I would recommend, obviously, with it being in Northern Ireland, that you are somewhat close. You can gift the voucher to somebody, they've confirmed that, but obviously the person needs to be over 18. And I will pop the link to the raffle in the comment section as well if you just want to enter the raffle yourself. But I will enter 4 people if the video reaches 1,000 views, if you comment on this video and you follow myself, Julianne, and the tattoo artist on the page. Editing Hayley here, just to be clear, I didn't mention this. So the money raised will be going towards the family's legal fees. So the family are obviously, they have lawyers and solicitors, etc., and they are dealing with a lot of sort of testing and costs. So the money that's raised from this raffle is going to be going towards the family's legal fees and costs around trying to see if they can find out what happened to Kelly. I think that something here doesn't add up, and it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense to me. You know, Julianne has said if they confirm that this was 100% accident and they can prove that, then she will accept that. But it's not that cut and dry. And to me, it just doesn't seem like that can be proven, because I don't understand with the evidence and the way things have happened that it can be that way. Something went down that night. Someone knows something that happened and they're covering it up. Someone is covering it up. And I think that she was too young. The parents should never have had to bury their child at that age, let alone have to deal with the last 12 months of just back and forth, arguing and disagreements because the guards aren't doing what they should be doing. To receive a phone call to advise you that your child has passed away, rather than have somebody drive to your door, is just the ultimate sign of disrespect. And for the phone call to have taken 10 minutes to tell a mother that she'd lost her child. A lot of the information is very grey, and it's coming out at different times. So I've done my best to stick to the timeline as best as I possibly can. And as soon as any updates do come, I will, of course, update everybody. Thank you so much if you've reached the end of this video. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you check the link in my bio, there is also a GoFundMe that the family have set up to help with the legal fees and any testing fees for, any of the material or DNA that they need to get tested. I will link that down below as well. I will also link the raffle. So remember, if you comment on this video and you follow myself, Julianne, and the tattoo artist on TikTok, we'll paste them all below, you will be in the raffle to win a €500 voucher, and I will enter 4 people. So thank you for watching. Any questions are welcome. I'm happy to do a questions video if I have the answers. And thank you so much. And to Julianne and Sean and the rest of the Lynch family, we're all standing with you in the hope that you get answers soon. And I'm thinking of you today as the 1-year anniversary of the loss of your daughter. And if there's anything that I can do, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.